Ben 10 is a classic American cartoon that I've loved since childhood. In this video, I'll walk you through everything from its very beginning to the very end. Let's get started.
What it did, and stuck itself upon his wrist with secrets that it hid. Now he's got superpowers, he's no ordinary kid.
The story of Ben 10 actually begins far from Earth, on the planet Galvan Prime. There, Azimuth and his partner Zenith were having a peaceful evening under the stars when Azimuth noticed something peculiar. The solar system was moving in sync with him. This discovery inspired him to create a powerful sword. Unfortunately, Azimuth became obsessed and started ignoring Zenith, which led her to leave him. During an interplanetary war, a knight stole the sword and used it to destroy his own world. Azimuth reclaimed his creation and entrusted it to Sir George, another knight who was battling Chimera from another dimension. From that point on, the sword was stored by the Forever Knights. Azimuth later created the Omnitrix with the hope of bringing peace to the universe and atoning for the destruction of the isolated planet Xenon. He collected DNA samples from every known species in the galaxy and stored them in a glowing green substance, the true nature of which remains unknown. A secret organization, initially formed under the leadership of George Washington to defend humanity against alien threats, eventually became the Plumbers, intergalactic peacekeepers. In 1962, U.S. Air Force pilot Max Tennyson attacked an unidentified flying object, only to later discover it was an alien craft. After saving the alien Verdun from its pursuers, Max fell in love with a woman who would become the grandmother of both Gwen and Ben. She was the one who explained the origin of Gwen's magical powers. Max soon joined the Plumbers and went on missions into space, where he encountered Xylene. A bond developed between them, all during the time when Vilgax launched his assault. Later, Xylene met Azimuth, who informed her that the Omnitrix was complete and requested that she deliver it to the greatest plumber of all, Max Tennyson. While transporting the Omnitrix, Xylene's ship was ambushed. In a quick decision, she launched the device toward Earth, sending it to Max's last known coordinates. Fortunately for us, the story became a lot more exciting thanks to Ben stumbling upon the Omnitrix in the woods during an argument with his cousin. The first alien Ben transformed into his Heat Blast. Correct me if I'm wrong. Vilgax soon discovered the Omnitrix's location and sent his soldiers. Ben transformed into Diamond Head and took down a massive robot. Why didn't Vilgax retrieve the Omnitrix himself? Simple. Xylene had heavily damaged him during their earlier battle, leaving him a disfigured, grotesque being. For the rest of the summer, Ben, Gwen, and Grandpa Max traveled the world, fighting all sorts of creatures. In one episode, they rented a boat to explore a lake rumored to have a Nessie-like monster, which turned out to be a peaceful alien trying to hatch its eggs. After local hunters stole the eggs, Ben had to step in. Next, they visited Aunt Vera, only to discover that aliens were impersonating retirees in a nearby town in preparation for an Earth invasion. Vilgax, obsessed with the Omnitrix, made several attempts to obtain it, including sending 3 highly trained mercenaries. After a tense battle of wits, Ben gained his first ally, Tetrax, a good guy who resembled a Minecraft diamond set. He helped Ben and even gave him a gift. In later adventures, Ben argued with Grandpa Max and ran off to an arcade, where he met Kevin. Using his powers, Kevin extracted money from machines. The two eventually tried to rob a game warehouse, but Ben had second thoughts and stood up to Kevin. Kevin absorbed the powers of the Omnitrix heroes and turned into a monstrous hybrid. Ben defeated him with a few strong hits and moved on. In one town, they encountered a gang of girls robbing local shops. Grandpa Max was seriously injured. Vilgax infiltrated the mind of one of the girls and transformed her body using plasma. He contacted Ben directly for the first time, warning him that escape was impossible. Ben then faced Hex. After defeating the magician, Gwen received a lucky charm and joined Ben as a fellow hero. However, Hex later returned, and the magical artifacts had to be destroyed. While relaxing at a water park, Ben went down a slide, but couldn't transform back from an alien form. He was captured by a student who handed him over to the Forever Knights, marking Ben's first encounter with them. After healing from his injuries, Vilgax returned to Earth to retrieve the Omnitrix. He kidnapped Ben and tried to remove the device, without success. Meanwhile, Max headed to Mount Rushmore, where he accessed a secret plumber base and retrieved a powerful weapon. He infiltrated Vilgax's ship and rescued Ben by destroying it entirely. The kids also learned more about Grandpa Max's past through his old partner Phil, who had been releasing dangerous creatures from the Null Void to profit from hunting them. This was our first introduction to the Null Void projector, a crucial item in the story. Later, the team discovered that people were seeing aliens robbing banks and stores. Oddly enough, the creatures resembled Ben's transformations. Determined to find the imposter, Ben tracked him down. It was Kevin. They fought once more. Ben won again, but Kevin, unwilling to accept defeat, transformed into a full-blown monster and couldn't revert to his original form. In Tokyo, they clashed again. Ben won, and Kevin fell from bridge. In Episode 4, Season 2, we see an alternate universe where Gwen receives the Omnitrix instead, but more on that later. Kevin returned for revenge, but both he and Ben were abducted and taken to a gladiatorial arena. They agreed to a temporary truce to escape the alien ship and defeat its leader. Though Kevin betrayed Ben in the end, he stayed behind while Ben made it back to his family. In another episode, Ben arrived at a camp that had been mysteriously emptied of children. There, he met two twins who explained what had happened. Investigating further, Ben entered a cave filled with alien spores and introduced the plant-like alien hero, Wildvine. The Forever Knights returned in an attempt to steal a mask that could reveal the location of the most powerful sword of the My People. Charmcaster released her Uncle Hex to get revenge on Ben and Gwen. At a convention, Gwen found a bracelet similar to her destroyed amulet and became a hero again. Once Hex gained power, he no longer needed Charmcaster, who turned against him. Ben defeated them and continued his journey. At one point, Ben began having nightmares caused by ghostly figures trying to escape from his mind. The Omnitrix couldn't contain the power of one of them, and it possessed Gwen. The entity threatened to throw her off a building if Ben interfered. After a tough battle, Ben realized that light was the only way to defeat the creature. Dr. Onimo obtained a piece of the Omnitrix and, after tinkering with it, created horrifying new monsters, even turning Grandpa Max and Gwen into greenworms. Kevin discovered the frozen body of Vilgax and proposed a partnership to defeat Ben and seize the Omnitrix's power. At that moment, Ben lacked the strength and skill to defeat both of them. But Grandpa Max used the Null Void projector to trap the villains once and for all. However, they end up dragging Ben along with them. Gwen ventures into the Null Void to rescue her brother and faces a difficult choice between saving the Omnitrix or Ben himself. Fortunately, she tricks the enemies and gives them an explosive instead. The family reunites and escapes the Null Void. Kevin ends up in prison, where he finds a spiritual mentor and eventually regains his human form. His cellmates plot an escape, and Kevin manages to break free during the attempt. Sadly, his mentor dies in the process. Now we move on to the third season, where we're introduced to a character named Sublimino. He hypnotizes Ben, causing him to wreak havoc at malls during the night. The Enchantress returns and accidentally switches bodies with Gwen, leading to Ben's cousin being imprisoned. She manages to escape, reverse the body swap, and the Enchantress ends up behind bars instead. During a desert journey, the group stumbles upon a town frozen in the 1950s. Elves have turned Max into Santa Claus. Ben ultimately resolves the situation and restores the townsfolk back to normal humans. On the road, they encounter a werewolf that bites Ben, causing him to begin mutating. Eventually, he defeats the creature and unlocks a new alien form. The kids then find themselves inside a sumo wrestling video game, where they must fight their way through each level, thankfully with Grandpa Max's help. Next, they head to a farm so Max can teach them hard work, since they refuse to wash dishes. There, they discover mutated animals, which turn out to be the result of an ancient mummy named Snarl-O, whom they freeze by the end of the episode. In the following 2 episodes, Ben battles a crazed coach with robots, and then a creature created by a meteorologist. Later, they learn a NASA launch has been canceled due to a mysterious purple storm. They head to NASA's facility and meet a peculiar scientist named Victor. It turns out he and some old allies are trying to resurrect Ghost Freak. Their plan is to launch a shuttle into space, block the sun, and plunge Earth into darkness. Each of the Tennysons faces off against a separate enemy, defeating them in turn. Finally, they destroy Ghost Freak with sunlight. During their travels, they meet Xylene, who was once romantically involved with Max. After intercepting a signal from the Omnitrix, she rushes to retrieve it, unaware that it had ended up with Max's grandson. Understandably, she's a bit upset. Now we shift to the 2007 movie Ben 10, Secret of the Omnitrix. During a fight with a villain named Nima, Ben doesn't anticipate a radiation wave damaging the Omnitrix, triggering a self-destruct countdown. Tetrax decides to take Ben off Earth to search for Azimuth, the device's creator. A marking on the watch reveals his location. He's in prison. Unfortunately, they find Azimuth's assistant instead, who eventually tells them where the real Azimuth is. After a long journey, they finally find him, but Ben loses Gwen along the way and is prepared to sacrifice himself. At that moment, Vilgax launches an attack. Gwen turns out to be alive, and Azimuth repairs the watch. Ben then uses the power of Way Big to send Vilgax flying into space. We now arrive at Season 4. Ben wakes up trapped in a dream created by the Forever Knights. He breaks free and defeats everyone in the room with ease. Dr. Onimo escapes from an asylum and returns once again, this time capturing Ben while he's transformed into one of his alien forms. Hex, now sporting a ponytail, gets into a fight with younger spellcasters. Meanwhile, Tennyson attends the wedding of Max's nephew, but the event turns into a battle between aliens and intergalactic enforcers. Don't worry, they all live happily ever after. Grandpa Max's RV is stolen, but quickly recovered. Ben accidentally breaks Gwen's laptop and, fearing her wrath, enters a wrestling match as 4 arms to earn money for a new one. After defeating 2 fighters, he finds out they're in serious debt, so he helps them out. As it turns out, Gwen's laptop was fine. She just tricked Ben to teach him a lesson. Approaching the series finale, Ben teams up with his cousin Cooper. They discover the plumber's base has been hacked in a mission to obtain the sub-energy key, capable of destroying entire worlds. It was a gift from aliens in a past mission. They travel to Mount Rushmore to defend the sub-energy, but nearly every villain from earlier episodes joins forces against them. The team manages to overcome the odds. Ben destroys the sub-energy and defeats all the enemies. There's one more episode that acts as the finale. Ben's summer vacation ends, and he returns home to school. He must now hide his Omnitrix powers, even when bullies pick on him. However, this doesn't stop Vilgax from coming back to Earth in another attempt to steal the watch. Ben, Gwen, Grandpa Max, and Ben's dad join forces to defeat him once again, restoring peace. In other videos, we'll dive into Ben's alternate timelines. But for now, here's something else worth mentioning. When Ben turns 20, Earth is inhabited by both humans and aliens. Ben has become a national hero with a statue standing in the center of the city. He continues to fight evil and rarely appears in human form. Gwen has become an incredibly powerful sorceress. Vilgax is still around, but as usual, he loses. Honestly, he's starting to feel like a bit of a sad case. In this timeline, Ben's son Ken celebrates his 10th birthday, and Ben gives him an Omnitrix. However, it only contains 10 forms meant for quick escapes. While near Ben's statue, Ken meets a boy named Devlin, the son of Kevin. Realizing Kevin never really cared for him, Devlin sides with Ben and helps take down his father. Kevin is sent back to the Null Void. Still, this 20-year-old Ben timeline doesn't align well with the one shown in Ben 10, Ultimate Alien. Also, in the alternate universe where Gwen receives the Omnitrix instead of Ben, she masters it on the first day and defeats Vilgax right away. With her, maybe the watch would have been even more powerful. And with that, we've reached the end of the video. See you next time, friends. Until then,